Back to Hoover and talk a little bit about South Carolina Gamecocks. We first of all are thankful and appreciative. We had a winning season last year. We had a tough, difficult middle of the year 5-game stretch where we lost 4 out of 5. It looked like we were possibly heading for a losing season, but really proud of the team hanging in there. Somehow another won a game down in the swamp and ended up winning the bowl game, beating Miami to go 7-6. So all I've been trying to tell people is that we were a happy bunch of Gamecocks to finish that year 7-6. If people think we're in the tank and all disappointed, they're wrong. We didn't have a stronger team as we've had the last 3 or 4 years there, and maybe that was the best we could do, was 7-6 and win our 4th straight bowl game. So we're looking forward to this year, though. We really believe we're going to be a stronger team, especially on defense. Defensively, we sort of gave up more yards and points than any team in South Carolina history, and got a new coach and some new players. And we really believe we're going to be a lot better defensively. John Hoke is coming in as defensive coordinator along with Lorenzo Ward. He and I were together at Florida in 2001, our last year. Florida led the conference we did in total defense and scoring defense. One of the best teams of the 12 years I was at Florida. Had 2 close games, lost both of them. And afterwards, I thought I wanted to go to the NFL, so I went. John Hoke went to the NFL. I lasted 2 years, and he lasted 13 years. So he was a lot better NFL coach than I was, Pat. So anyway, it just worked out timing for him to come back with us at South Carolina with me, and his 2 daughters finished high school. In fact, one of them's actually going to South Carolina this coming year. So we think we're going to be much improved, but we got to go play and prove it. But we got some new defensive linemen that should really help us. Some junior college kids that we think are really ready to play. The attitude's been very good. When you win that bowl game, you know, life is pretty good again, and so we're fired up, ready to get into this 2015 season.
Steve, David Cloninger with the State. With your quarterbacks, you kind of went through this thing back in 08 when Tommy Beecher ended up winning the job. Have you thought of that situation as you prepare with these 3 new guys?
Not really. I've, as you know, I've coached a long time, and we've won conference championships with 2 quarterbacks a lot of times. At Florida, I think we won 7 of them. Shane Matthews won a couple. Danny Wolf and Terry Dean actually both played in 93, 94. They alternated a little bit. And then Rex Grossman and Jesse Palmer rotated that last year, 2000. Each of them, I think, had 4 wins as we went 8-1. So you can play 2 quarterbacks if that's the way it is, if both guys are similar in talent. We hope one guy will separate himself through preseason practice. So we'll see what happens when August comes around.
Hunter Mandel with Bleacher Report. Coach, what are your thoughts on the crop top ban?
On what?
Crop top. They banned crop tops this college football season.
Buddy, tell me what that is. I'm not familiar with it. You know what he's talking about?
They fold up the jersey and you can't show your stomach, your midriff.
Oh, I thought we've had that rule.
No, it went into effect this year.
Oh, it did? I thought we had that rule. You can't show your belly. I thought we had. They definitely, you can't do it now. I think it's a good rule. You don't have to. You don't have to. Yeah.
Over here to the left.
Okay.
Coach Joe Whalen, WBMA TV, Birmingham.
Right.
When you're out recruiting, how frequently does the subject of how much longer you're going to be coaching come up, and how candid are you with recruits?
Maybe about the same as Coach Krzyzewski at Duke. You know, we're about a year apart in age. He's still doing pretty well, by the way, I would say, national champ and so forth. There's people running for president that are my age, right within a year of me, Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton. Somebody told me the other day that I was the youngest coach in the SEC who's won 4 straight bowl games. Pat, you knew that. A lot of people don't know that. I'm the youngest that has done that right now. So anyway, but that's something for the critics to talk about. When you don't go 11-2, well, let's see, how can I criticize South Carolina? And that's what they get paid to do. So I've got to learn to accept it. But I feel good. I feel good where our team is. I feel like I got a lot of years left. John Hoke's a proven coach. We got a lot of good players. And we're fired up. We think we're going to make some real good strides this year.
James Crepey with AL.com. Coach, as you prepare for the season opener with North Carolina, they've got a new defensive coordinator in Gene Chizik. Will you look back at old Auburn tape, perhaps the 2010 SEC Championship game, to look at schematic things, or is any of that even relevant when you're looking at a coach who hasn't been in the game for a few years?
A little bit, yeah. We'll probably look at that a little bit. Look at some of what he did there at Auburn that year, and maybe what he did when he was coordinator at Texas and Auburn. I tell you what, he's got a heck of a record as a coordinator. I don't know if you guys know it or not, but he had 2 straight undefeated seasons as a coordinator at Auburn and then at Texas. So, did you know that, buddy? You didn't know that. Pat, you knew that. Okay. So he's got some kind of record. Not many people didn't lose a game for 2 years. It took 3 years for him to lose a game. So, yeah, he'll have them ready to play. Larry Fedor's an excellent offensive coach. Those guys move the ball on everybody, it seems like, and we got to play well.
Right here. Steve, Scott Griffin, Fox 6. You've been very strong in your opinion on violence against women and stuff, players, and just your opinion on, is there enough being done on the front end by coaches, not yourself necessarily, but coaches in general, in evaluating a player, or is there sacrifices being made because a kid has talent, and then if he screws up, we can just say, well, we gave him a chance, you know? And then you also, your thoughts on second chances for offenders.
Mm-hmm. Well, every coach has his own set of rules, I guess, and there's no uniform policy on rules around the conferences or schools. Personally, I have a rule that if a player ever hits a girl, he's finished. He's not going to play for our team. I've lost 2 players at South Carolina that way. Fortunately, none of them were star players, and it didn't hit the paper much, but they moved on. They were out of there. And the players at South Carolina know that. If they ever hit a girl, they're finished. They're not coming, transfer, go play for another coach. So we have that rule, and I think having the rule and enforcing it has helped us a lot in that area. But, you know, you got to ask other coaches if they have that rule, but that's one of my rules, and all the guys know it, and they know if they ever slap, hit, punch, they got to go somewhere else.
Buddy Martin, Southern Pigskin. Steve, you had some great receivers over the years. Most of them came as great receivers. Pharaoh Cooper came as a defensive back. Mm-hmm. He had a breakthrough year last year. Talk about where he came from and what did you see in him when you took him off the defense and put him on the offensive side of the ball? Okay, buddy. I hate to disagree with you because you usually know what you're talking about, but Ike Hilliard was a defensive back, running back in high school. Crazy Green and Riedel, I think, sort of shotgun quarterbacks a lot because they didn't have anybody could throw to them, but just good athletes. Yeah, Pharaoh came to us, and he wanted to be like Stephon Gilmore. He wanted to be a Wildcat high school quarterback that won the state championship, just like Gilmore did, and come play defensive back and be a first-round NFL pick like Stephon. So that was his game plan, and he was over on defense his first year. And I asked the coach, "Is he doing any good?" And he said, "Well, he's not real aggressive when he doesn't have the ball in his hands." And then he was a punt returner. I saw him catching punts. I said, "Pharaoh, you need to get over there at wide receiver." He wasn't a starter on defense, so we put him over there, and he instantly became a big-time player. But he's quick, got wonderful hands, and I mean, he's a Wildcat quarterback too. He can run, throw. He had a game last year that was one of the best games individually I've ever had a player. The Tennessee game, he caught 2 touchdown passes, about a 20-yarder and an 80-yarder. He threw a touchdown pass, and he ran for 1. Ran for 1, threw 1, and caught 2. And we lose the game, nobody even heard of him.
when Lou Holtz and Mark May were handing out stickers, nobody heard of Pharaoh Cooper that day. But as we all know, you got to win the game, and then sometimes your players will get the recognition they deserve.
Hey, Steve.
Okay.
Chris Price, WBRZ in Baton Rouge. There's only a couple of schools in the league that return experienced quarterbacks that have had some success. What is the importance of having that returning experience? Can you put a number on it? Is it a couple of touchdown passes here, interceptions there, or is it more subtle than that?
Yeah, I heard our man Gary Danielson talking about that as we were coming in today on the radio. In college, you don't need that franchise quarterback like the pro teams. The pro teams, almost all of them zip through the playoffs. They got the guy that's been there a long time and what they call their franchise quarterbacks. But in college, you can win without maybe a top-notch guy completely. But you have to have good play, obviously, and guy has to take care of the ball, be a pretty good passer, pretty good runner. But if he plays with a real good team around him, he's got a chance to look good. Hopefully one of our guys will jump forward and really play well. Maybe we got a Shane Matthews in the crowd. What do you think, Pat? Who knows yet? Yeah, nobody knew much about Shane in 1990. The guy went from 5th team to SEC Player of the Year. So it can happen. I don't know if we got one to do that, but we'll see.
Todd Summers, WSPA TV. You were talking so positively about Pharaoh Cooper. Do you worry at all about too many touches, especially early on as you wait for other guys to develop? Do you worry about overuse in the early games?
Overuse? Yeah, we look back last year and say we should have used him more. Yeah, we should have used him more. But you play it by feel. If he jumps in there at the Wildcat and he's running for no gain, then heck, you quit doing it. But if he's making yards, you got to keep him running and so forth. But yeah, you need to get the ball in the hands of your best players. We all know that. So we got to use him as much as we can.
Tom Menino, WVTM TV, Birmingham. Want to get your thoughts on the Confederate flag and its removal from the South Carolina's capital?
Well, I think all coaches and all of us in college sports are always concerned about equality, no bias against anybody. And I came out back in 07 or 08, something like that, at a function saying, I hope we remove the flag. And but it took a while. Unfortunately, it took that terrible shooting in Charleston to get it started. We all praise our governor for leading the move to have it removed. And I think it helps our state immensely.
Coach Steve Nissom, WEAR Pensacola. Elliott Fry was in here telling us about his diabetes condition. How do you feel about the way he's handled that and overcome that?
Well, you never know. He's got that condition. He got his little backpack with him, and so I got to carry my insulin with me, Coach. So he knows how to give himself the little shots and so forth. He's a wonderful kicker, maybe the best we've ever had there. He's reliable. He's helped us win many a game. We got in a field goal game with Florida 2 years ago when we actually were fortunate to set the school record for winning home games in a row. He was 4 out of 5 on field goals that night. Turned into a field goal game. We couldn't score against those guys, touchdowns. So he's a crucial, really good player for us.
Steve, Pat Dooley, Gainesville Sun. There's 7 new defensive coordinators in the league, 8 if you count Derek Mason taking over the defense. Is that a challenge as an offensive coach that you've got all these new guys that you have to kind of look at different things they're doing?
Yeah, I think you just look at the tape from what they do the first game or two and go from there. Yeah, there are some different defensive coaches. That's interesting. I also read where 10 of the 14 coaches are offensive guys that are head coaches. Of course, the NFL, I think somebody said of their 8 new coaches, all 8 of them were defensive guys. So maybe that's the direction they're heading, and college is, I don't know what direction we're heading. It can happen both ways, but obviously you need some continuity. Obviously that hurt Will Muschamp having a different offensive guy every year down there. So whatever, if you got a lot of good coaches and can hang on to them for a while, that's got to be helpful. And we've been able to do that at South Carolina. Our assistant coaches really seem to love it there, and they get some offers to leave. Our line coach gets an offer about every year, it seems like. So I got to give him a little bump in pay, and he's happy to stay there. But that's how you get raises. Everybody's after you, and that's part of the game.
Right here.
Steve, you mentioned how Farrow can play quarterback. Is there, maybe in case of emergency, break glass situation with him if nobody else seems to grab the job at QB?
Yeah, he can step in there and play a bit if we had to, but these other guys, they're ready. They're going to be ready to play. They've had a lot of snaps, and we'll get a lot more before we go to Charlotte to play North Carolina. So they should be ready.
Back here.
Hey, Coach. Nicole Norn with ESPN. What are your thoughts on the new SEC transfer rule, which prevents athletes from going to another SEC school if they've been punished for serious misconduct? And is that fair, given that the criminal justice process usually hasn't played out yet many times?
Yeah, I personally, I don't have any problem with it. Some of the other coaches think it's a disadvantage. But the SEC, they make the rules. They also have rules on the satellite camps. We can't go do them in other places the way the Big Ten schools are coming into Texas and Florida and so forth, Atlanta area. So we got our own set of rules. Yeah, I'd rather worry about which quarterback's going to start that North Carolina game right now than worry about that.
Final question in the back.
Hey, Coach. Jacques Doucet, WAP-TV, here in the middle to your right. You know how hard it is to last in this league. With those thoughts, can you talk about Les Miles going to year 11 and LSU visiting Columbia this year?
Yep, Les and I are both going into our 11th year. I think Mark Rick and Gary Pinkel are the longest tenured coaches in the SEC. So Les and I are in the top 4. So I think it's a sign that we've been there a long time, and hopefully we'll be there a lot longer. Now Les done a super job there, and they do come to our stadium. They're always a very talented team and so forth. But yeah, it's what did they finish last year? They finished 8-5. Auburn 8-5. Texas A&M. Yeah, and I was talking to Kevin Sumlin about that earlier. Sometimes when you play in the SEC and you go 8-5, it's not too bad. Of course, when you win that bowl game, that makes it a little bit nicer than so forth, because for whatever reason in life, you're remembered usually by your last game. What'd you do your last game? And that's what's sort of rejuvenated us at South Carolina, because we had a very disappointing middle of the season, but the bowl game can really give you some energy going forward.
Okay, thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, I tried to go in order. There was too many people. One guy back there couldn't get in here. So.